I begin in the name of my Lord, most gracious, most kind. And I send salutations and greetings upon his holy messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his holy household and progeny. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa al Muhammad. My respected elders, scholars, brothers and sisters in Islam, assalamu alaikum. Today is about Zahra. Who is this Zahra? The flower of Nabuwah, the fragrance of paradise, the daughter of our holy prophet, the mother of all the believers. But she was no ordinary person because she lived the life of her father. Therefore, she knew, among other things, about faith, struggle, truth, sacrifice, politics. She understood hypocrisy as she witnessed these behavior of the folks who befriended her father. She understood purity in the face of adversity. She knew how to avoid temptations and make the right choices. But she embodied the Quran so that when people saw her, they couldn't differentiate between the scripture or the human. But she was young when she died. Some say she died in her teens. Some say she died in her tweens. Whatever the case may be, this young lady had a whole life ahead of her. She had children to raise. She had ambitions to accomplish. And all this ended when her life ended. And look at the people who were around her. They did not come to console the family in their time of grief. Instead, they ridiculed and they annoyed them and they made them feel like they were worthless. But tonight, I want to challenge this group. What if Zahra had lived another 20 years? What if she lived another 40 years? What if she lived another 60 years? Imagine, in less than 20 years, what did she do for us? She showed us the rights of our inheritance. She showed us the spirituality. She left lessons for those of us about social interaction and treatment of those who are underprivileged. She left a mark about justice. We all know the story after her father's death when they were harassing her husband. She spoke out against them. She believed in self-sustenance. She never took money from the treasury. So this she did in less than 20 years. What would she have done another 20 years? I want us all to take stock of our life. What have we done? What do we have yet to do? This is for all of us. Each of us are good at many things, but we have to look deep within ourselves because you see, each of us has somebody, especially a female in our lives, that have left a mark on us. A mother, a teacher, a congressperson, a counselor, whoever, somebody. And I want you to start thinking about this. A woman in your life who has made an impact. You see, for me, and I'll start it off, it was my mother. And I grew up not in this country. I grew up far away from here. I went to a Catholic school. I spoke 3 languages. But my mother, who never drove, she took us to swimming lessons. She took us to sewing lessons. She made sure we learned Arabic. She made sure that she created magical things on the dinner table. She spent time at the library with us. Through her, I saw the beauty of literature and art. She took us to theaters and plays. She never drove. But we all have someone like that in our lives. And I guarantee that when we start to think about this, we will find the impact they have made. Our future, my dear brothers and sisters, we're in an information age. What do we? We consume information instantaneously. The way we do things today, issues are no longer local or regional, they're global. Today we live in a future which has to be redefined, a future that we have climate change, economic change, familial change. We have a future of political change. So we have to start something. Let's start with one thing, education. Has anyone in this room heard of Maria Montessori? Yes, everyone's heard of Maria Montessori, right? Did you know that Maria Montessori lived in a small town? She was born in the province of Ancona, Italy, in the year 1870. And her family, when they realized this one girl of theirs needed to become a teacher, they moved to Rome so that she could go to the best school. Well, guess what? She chose a boys' school. She went to a boys' school because she loved math and engineering, and that's what she wanted to learn. So she did that. And then when she finished her boys' school, she decided she wanted to go into medicine. But not one school gave her admission because she was a girl. She wanted to be a doctor, and she pursued and persisted until she did. One college gave her admission. And in the year 1896, she was the first woman in Italy to get her degree in medicine. But she realized one thing. She worked with people who were mentally challenged. She worked with children who had physical challenges. And she realized this was not enough. So what did she do? She started to attend hospitals and universities and started to learn about methods of teaching. And she realized that being a doctor treated symptoms. She wanted to get to the root of those symptoms. She wanted to fix them at the early age. And so she decided to pursue her education. And today, almost everyone practices some form of teaching from the Montessori school, because she taught people how to teach children using sensorial, focusing on their behavior, touching, feeling, sensing, instead of just telling. That wasn't her way. It created a generation of confident young adults. And that's her method of teaching. But her struggles didn't end there. She started to promote her way of teaching. She spent 3 years in the United States. Not one institution adopted her methods, and she left. This was in the early 19th century. She went back to Europe. This is Maria Montessori. But my dear friends, I'm going to ask you, have you heard of Nana Asma'u? Nobody. Right? Nana Asma'u, her full name was Bint Shehu Usman Dan Fodio. She was from Nigeria. She lived in a generation before Maria Montessori. And she taught her people there the language, the Greek language, the Latin language, the Arabic language. She would go into villages in Nigeria to promote education and awareness, so that the kids would not be illiterate. But we never talk about her. And you know what's interesting is there are more stories of women like that. You see, today, women are at the forefront of education. We have women in politics. We have women in schools. We have doctors, journalists, astronauts. We have policymakers, architects, engineers. There's nothing stopping us. But there are pioneers like Montessori and others, Marie Curie, to thank for. And these people taught us how to do it in spite of the obstacles, in spite of the roadblocks. But we can't do it alone, sisters. I look at the United States today, and I see women struggling with poverty, for equal pay, receiving the basic needs of shelter, healthcare. Why? Why is it that 2 weeks ago, President Obama signed a proclamation, a presidential proclamation? And what did he say? He said, today is the National Equal Pay Day, 2014. Why? when in 1963 Congress passed the National Equal Pay Act. Why? Why is it in 2014 he's still talking about that? Because women still make a third less than men for the same job. Why aren't we progressing as a society? Now look at what happened last year. On her 16th birthday, Malala Yousafzai addressed the United Nations. This was a young girl from Pakistan. This girl took a bullet because she believed in education for women. She stood in front of the United Nations and told them what? She told them, I will not stop my pursuit, no matter what the men in my neighborhood think. I will continue to inspire and fight for that. Why, my dear sisters? Because women are going to be tomorrow's mothers. And let's face it, our most important job is raising our children. No matter what we do, no matter what plane we fly, no matter what invention we make, our most important job is raising our children. And when we raise our children, I ask us to pay attention, that we raise our boys who are respectful, considerate, open-minded, educated, and teach them how to interact with women according to the lessons derived from the Quran and the examples of the Ahlul Bayt. Because if we don't raise them that way, they'll make up their own rules. See, women should not be seen as an object to own, or subservient, or something to use just for sexual pleasures. That's not what women are about. In fact, in our religion, segregation is a precaution. Wouldn't it be better if we did integration with precaution? Our kids go to the same school with the boys. Our kids will go to the same workplace with the men. Why don't we teach them how to interact with each other at a young age? And we should teach them, even our girls, the same lessons. Because when we draw lessons from Fatima Zahra, we will accomplish many things. She never stopped, but she observed her modest dressing. She observed her modest behavior. And if we want to start influencing change, my dear brothers and sisters, we should join government roles. That's where policies change, not sitting here crying about it. That's not where things get done. We have to get involved in the government. Why? It's still a man's world. It's still a man's world. We have to raise our children to foresee the future together. And we should draw the lessons from people like Marie Curie, because Marie Curie invented radiology back in the 19th century. And Marie Curie left her homeland, Poland. Why? Because she spoke against the revolution and they were out to kill her. So she left. She went to Paris. Not one university in Paris gave her admission. She started her work in a lab. She met her husband, Pierre. Pierre Curie was already working on his thesis. Pierre saw what his wife was doing. He stopped his work. He wanted to support her. And at a very young age, he died. He was the head of the Department of Physics in University of Paris. Right after that, they appointed Marie to head that department. She was never allowed admission at the university. She ended up heading the Department of Physics. See, Marie Curie was another pioneer for women. These are women who did things in our centuries. I'm not talking about the women who did it in the 7th century and the 9th century and the 12th century. This is 19th, 20th, and 21st century. We have to start transforming things. We have to engage our life partners with us, our spouses. We have to select them so that we are on the same thought, the same values. You know, today I look at couples, and the ones who are successful are all on the same page. And then I hear of people who've been married for 20, 30 years and now they're separating. Why? Why, when you have children together? Why? Why is this happening? Why did the roads diverge? What caused it? Let's get it right when we get in so that we don't go different ways. I want to talk about change. You see, it's a daily juggle for us women. We change from young adults to professionals. We change to moms to caregivers all in one day. We do that. Then they call us. Why? Because we're superheroes. Superheroes triumph when things go wrong. You never hear Superman come to save nothing. He's always saving something. Superheroes come to save something. Mothers come to save something. And when mothers are called, all of a sudden our job becomes problem solvers, coaches, nurses. At the end of the day, we become engineers and chefs and teachers, and we do that all in one day, depending on who in the family needs us. We've all heard the saying that a woman is like a tea bag. You put her in hot water and see how strong she is. I want us to think about these things when you think about that woman in your life. The million-dollar question is, what are we women going to do when we juggle so many things? When do we get time to breathe? That's when we have a community. That's when we reach out to one another. That's when we talk to the teachers in their schools and we say, I'm raising my children this way with these values. Are they the same as yours? Because I don't want to confuse my child. Then you surround yourself with friends and families who are like thought. And you challenge each other. Pretty soon your neighborhood starts to join in. This is how we transform, one person at a time. I want to quote Marie Curie. She said, I'm one of those who think like Nobel. You know Nobel? The Nobel Prizes are named after Nobel. She said Nobel had a good thing. Humanity will draw more good than evil from new discoveries. She had hope. By the way, Montessori lived in the same decades as Marie Curie. Marie Curie was the first person ever to win 2 Nobel Prizes. One in 1903 for physics and another in 1911 for chemistry. Completely different. How does somebody do that? No one's done it since then. I want to go back to how we do it together with our spouses. You see, our history is filled with examples. We don't have to look very far. Look at Khadija and Muhammad. Now, I'm taking divinity out of this, okay? We don't want to say Allah made him messenger, and yes, I get that. But I want us to think about their life together. How was it? They were on the same page. She didn't complain when he went up to meditate. She didn't complain. So we don't complain when our spouses want to meditate. If they want to do it in the gym, more power to them. They look better. If they want to do it in their prayer, let them do it. Let's not argue with them about that. We all need a break from life. Allah made that incumbent upon us, salah, so that we can take a break from life. Our history is filled with these examples. Ali and Fatima. How did they make it? So young she was. Today, if we tell 11-year-old, 9-year-old, 12-year-old, what is their thinking? What was her thinking at that age? The fact that when she left this world, she was already on her way to deliver a 5th child. How does that work? I'm sure she didn't do it alone. He was right there with her. Look at Zainab and Abdullah. Could she have left her family? Could she have taken her children without his support? Absolutely not. See, we have to start thinking about these people. But one of our problems is we talk about the past, we forget the examples of the current. So I'm going to ask you a question. Have you heard of Anousheh Ansari? Yes? Yes, good. For those of us who haven't heard of Anousheh Ansari, she was an engineer, a scientist. She was born in Mashhad, Iran. Her family left Iran, moved to the United States. And she was the first Muslim and the first woman to go into space as a self-proclaimed astronaut. She funded it herself. It was her exploration to space. Muslim. We never talk about the Muslims who achieve anything. We never do. How then can media talk about them? We don't. What are they going to hear? Regardless of what we think and what our opinions are, let's talk about them. And you know, while she was in space, what she did? She did 4 things. Among them was the mechanism of how to prevent anemia on Earth. And the second thing is how the muscle influences our lower back pain when you are in space. What technology can be implemented? She did all this. When did she do this? In 2006. We never talk about them. What about another woman? And I will come to her soon. I want us to think for a minute about media and how we consume information today. And it's not just television anymore, right? It's all our multimedia devices. I want us to think about the information we get. We're bombarded with scandals and bad things and crime and challenges. Do you really think this didn't happen 50 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago? Of course they happened. We hear it all the time and it just drives us crazy. You see, if it didn't happen that far a long time ago, there would be no reason for scriptures. There would be no reason for laws. There would be no reasons for any moral doctrines. So these things happened, and that's why these boundaries are established. The problem is today we commercialize everything. Everyone wants to make a buck out of a story. And because of that, the stories that sell are the ones that are negative, not the ones that are positive. Now let's start a movement amongst ourselves. And I guarantee you, if 5 women start to do this, pretty soon 50 women will be doing it. Pretty soon our husbands will be doing it. Next thing you know, our families will be doing it. We have to stop this media showing negative stuff. There are way too many good things happening in this world. Too many. And we never hear about them. So let's start talking about the good things that happen in our lives. Okay? Where is the news of these women who are doing amazing things? Where are the news of these men who are doing amazing things? Once we start to transform how we raise our children and we make them caring and kind and thoughtful, the next thing you know, the next generation will be free from greed and power and evil and egos. They will start to think better. That's our job to do now. I'm going to ask you a couple more trivias. Let's see if we know this. We've talked about these 2 famous women, Maria Montessori and Marie Curie. Both of them are Nobel Prize winners, right? I want to ask you about 2 other Nobel Prize winners. Let's see if you know them. Have you heard of Shirin Ebadi? Yes, okay. Another Iranian, right? What is she known for? She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2003 for, regardless of what our opinions are, these are Muslim women doing great things, okay? She stood up in the court of law. She was a judge in Iran. She's an attorney, a practicing attorney. She stood up for the rights of children who were being abused or not taken care of. That was her main point. And she wrote articles and she made herself known, and that's how you win the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, let me ask you if you've heard of this other woman, Tawakkul Karman. Anybody heard of her? No. She was a Yemeni Muslim woman, the youngest person ever to win a Nobel Peace Prize. She was 32. in 2011 when she shared the prize with 2 other women for doing what? She is known for her non-violent struggle for the safety of women who do peace-building work. She is in Yemen. She continues to serve her community. We never hear about them. So how can we sit here today and honor Fatima Zahra? And we just sit here and feel good about ourselves. We have to get up and do things. And we have to make sure mainstream media hears about our new and good things, because only then will our portrayal and their opinion of us change. But if we sit here and not worry about them, nothing will change. So my dear brothers and sisters, I ask you today, in honor of Fatima Zahra, do we make a pledge to do something that is worthwhile to humanity? Start in our own homes, carry it to our neighborhood, and in our communities, and in our cities, and in our government, and forever and ever it goes on. And let's make a difference. Assalamu alaikum.